Legislative Branch Jigsaw Activity. Group 7, Congress's Non-Legislative Powers, Part 1. Non-legislative powers. How can Congress check the power of the other branches of government? Although Congress's primary responsibility is to write laws for the nation, the Constitution has assigned it other important responsibilities. Many of these non-legislative powers are related to Congress's checks on the powers of the executive and judicial branch. Proposing and ratifying constitutional amendments. Congress plays a key role in proposing amendments to the Constitution. According to the Constitution, an amendment may be formally proposed by two-thirds vote of both chambers and sent to the states for ratification. This is the only proposal method that has been used to date. However, the Constitution allows Congress, at the request of two-thirds of the states, to call a national convention to propose a constitutional amendment. After Congress proposes an amendment, it selects one of two ratification methods outlined in the Constitution. It may call for three-fourths of state legislatures to formally approve the amendment, or attempt to have the amendment ratified by three-fourths of the states in special state conventions. Currently, the 21st Amendment is the only constitutional amendment ratified by state conventions. Congress's role in the process of amending the Constitution gives its potential check on the power of the judicial branch. Many Supreme Court decisions are based on the justice's interpretation of the Constitution. If Congress disagrees with the court's interpretation, it can propose an amendment to the Constitution and submit to the states for ratification. In 1857, the Supreme Court ruled in the Dred Scott v. Sanford that the Constitution never intended for African Americans to be considered citizens of the United States. After the Civil War, Congress and the states overturned this decision by proposing and ratifying the 14th Amendment. Ratifying treaties. A treaty is a formal agreement between two or more nations. Nations that ratify a treaty are legally bound to abide by its conditions as part of international law. In the United States, treaties are given the same legal weight as federal laws passed by Congress. Since World War II, the United States has entered into a number of treaties designed to limit the international spread of nuclear weapons. The United States also signed treaties to join the United Nations and North Atlantic Treaty Alliance of NATO. Although treaties are negotiated by the President and the President's foreign policy team, the Constitution requires that they be ratified by and with the advice and consent of the Senate. To take effect, treaties require a two-thirds vote in the Senate, rather than a simple majority. The Senate's authority to ratify or reject treaties is an important congressional check on the President's power to conduct the nation's foreign affairs. Because treaties can be so difficult to ratify, presidents in recent decades have avoided negotiating formal treaties with other nations. Instead, they have entered into international executive agreements. These agreements have the force of law but do not require Congress's advice and consent. In 2015, President Barack Obama signed an executive agreement to enter into a controversial nuclear arms deal with Iran.